I think the other flaw in that thinking is that, like, there's once sin entered the world, we were cooked, right? And so there are lots of things that happen in our life that were not a part of God's original plan or intention for humanity. And so what God says is that in his word, as I'm reading scripture and I'm beginning to understand who God is and who he has presented himself to be to those who had been entrusted to translate those truths into scripture, is that you live in a world now that is not the world that I had in mind. And I gave you all free will so that you could create the type of world that you wanted to create. And the world that you have created, it has brokenness, it has sin, it has disobedience, it has pain, it has disease. And this is not the world I wanted for you. And what God could have, should have, would have done if he were like us is distance himself. Since you're now living in a world that I didn't have for you or did not want for you. Now you in this world on your own, you figure it out. No, he says, I'll get in it with you. It's not the world that I wanted you to experience, the broken homes, the family, the disease. It's not what I wanted for you, but I can get in it with you. And my presence in it with you can keep your soul intact even when your world is falling apart. I can keep your spirit intact even when your world is falling apart. And so I've had to reorient myself towards presence and not power, to reorient myself toward presence and not just position. And in doing that, I feel this mandate to, and I'm writing about this in my book right now, but I felt like I needed to share it with you, is like the same analogy of skin to skin for a newborn baby. I see reflecting in what happens in the Garden of Eden. And so, for those of you who may not be parents or may not be well versed in what happens when a child or a baby is brought into the world. Hospitals have this thing where they want the baby to be regulated by skin to skin. So the baby comes into the world naked and they want the parent or, caregiver to take off their clothing and put the baby as close to their chest as possible because this baby who's used to this enclosed tight womb is now in this world where, there's so many things coming at them, and they're like the first thing that they need to do is to be close to someone again. They need to be held skin to skin with no barrier, nothing standing in the way, so that they can be regulated. They can hear a heartbeat that feels like their own. They can feel warmth that feels like their own. A blanket can't do this, clothing can't do this. We've got the heat lamps, they do okay, but they're not the same thing as just being regulated by a person being close to you. And I see similarities to what happens in the garden, in which they're in the garden, they're naked and they are walking in his presence. There's no barrier between who they are in the earth and God's presence until sin enters the world. And this season of my life that I have said is the hardest season of my life has disrobed me. It has taken away anything that I have built: pride, comfort, um, ego, and it's disrobed me. And in the process of being disrobed, I'm having to like just peel off all of these layers of things that I thought made me good enough, made me strong, made me a wife, made me a mother, made me a leader. I'm like, here, oh gosh, God, here's this, here's this, here's this. And now I feel so vulnerable and so naked. And I feel the Lord being like, yeah, now my prayer doesn't have anything standing in the way. And now you can be who I really need you to be in this season. And that is to be raw and real and vulnerable. And so it's been the hardest season of my life because it has been the one that has laid me bare.